Five. All right, folks. We're a little bit late, 11 minutes late starting this stream because geeks extraordinaire Troy Miller and I were in different parts of California watching Apple's keynote stream, which just concluded, where they announced their new headset and a bunch of other cool stuff that's exciting. So we'll probably do something, a dedicated decompress recording, and share that out later. But this stream was about our photo critique, is a little bit delayed because Apple had the nerve to, run over with their world-changing $1 trillion market cap increasing announcements, right? So
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about it. We got a lot to talk about there. But here, Troy Miller, if you guys haven't noticed, Troy Miller is not in his normal environment. He is somewhere in the somewhere in California. I'm guessing California or Nevada. Where are you, Troy?
I'm in Temecula. We're at Vail Lake KOA Resort in Temecula.
Okay, in Temecula, you cut out for a little bit there. So, and be kind and be forgiving, because Troy is clearly not on his high speed gigabit up and down internet connection at home. So, but he's still taking time out of his family day, on this Monday afternoon to come in and do this live stream remotely. So, thank you, Troy. Thank you for
Anything for you guys.
in.
This is fun.
Yeah, cool. All right, so let's get this party started here. All right, here we go. I got to get sorted because I had Apple all over the screen looking at stuff. Like I was telling guys, I was telling Troy as we were kind of watching the keynote independently but together. I was registering domain names because that's the kind of entrepreneur I am. Right? So, like, I heard another keyword. Let me see if that domain is available. So I registered a ton of domains during the keynote itself, as I'm sure a gazillion other people did too.
Right,
but I got the best ones. So
I got none because I was sitting in my car trying to watch it on the Tesla screen.
I will sell you some of mine for low five figures, I think, just because you're a friend, low five figures will do it.
Nice.
All right, so Troy, this week's critique topic was circles.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, considering that the universe is pretty much made of circular things down to the cellular level, we got surprisingly few submissions. We got some great submissions, but I was expecting a flood of submissions in there. We didn't get many. Why do you think that is? Was it too easy? Was it not challenging enough? Or were people just, circle phobia or something? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe everybody was busy enjoying the good weather and they didn't want to go out and create or dig into their libraries. I don't know. Or maybe it could be because I didn't pick the topic. It could be that.
There you go. Who picked it? Jeff Greenberg? Was Jeff Greenberg one? Yes. Jeff, circles. Watch, and then Troy after this one.
I'm just kidding.
What will you pick after this one, Troy? What, squares, hexagons, parallelograms? What?
I actually have an idea.
Oh, all right. Foreshadowing. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Foreshadowing. All right, well, let's dive in. Let's dive into this here critique. And here we are inside of the TWiP Pro community. If you are not a member of the TWiP Pro community, consider becoming one at join.thisweekinphoto.com. All right, let me go ahead and reload this page here to make sure that we got the right ones. There we go. And just a little treat, pause before we get started. Somebody wants to say hi.
Which one's that? Is that Stormy?
But that was Momo's cameo. All right, here we go. Reloaded. First first photo to look at is this one by Raphael Swift, Circles in Flight. Look at that.
I know.
I
That
love this one.
is
This is what a great way to kick it off, right? This is awesome.
that. Oh, and that's an airplane in there, right? Is that an
That is,
airplane?
yeah. You got to look at it big or at a bigger size to realize that's an airplane. And I love the scale, right? I mean, obviously, that's not to scale, right? Because the sun is quite a ways away. But but just to show that tiny airplane and this huge celestial event that's happening right there, and
Right.
everything in the shot except for the airplane is, and the frame of the photo itself is circular. Even the aurora around the sun, and the hint of the moon biting into the sun, everything's circular. So played right in
Right.
to the topic. What do you think?
I think this is brilliant. I think this is absolutely beautiful. I love, we've got the double circles kind of intersecting that little bite out of the sun, which kind of creates this amazing composition. It's kind of like the pattern interrupted scenario. And then there's that little surprise nugget of, what's that fleck that's in there, right? Like, what's that little dot? And to know that that's a plane, right? Full of passengers headed somewhere. I just think that is so cool, and the timing, right? The difficulty of capturing that at the right moment is really wonderful. So, my only thought, my only critique to this would be is, you've got a little too much space on the right and a tiny bit too much space on the top. I would try to get the composition more centered, right? Like lean into perfect balance. There's no need to have space on the right or the top. Like there's not an object going that way that we need to give it space. So let's put that sucker right in the middle.
Yeah, some more symmetry, right? Yeah, I agree.
More
I
symmetry,
agree.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But holy cow, like what an amazing image.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I like this one. You could totally get lost in this. I'm a astrophysics nerd anyway, so I love this. I love this kind of stuff. It's exciting and depressing at the same time because you realize the how relatively insignificant we are in the universe, and how small we are and how tiny the Earth is compared to everything, and how the sadness comes in when I realize that interstellar travel is probably not possible right now, right? So unless you
Right.
put on some of
But
these reality headsets or something.
that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I'm going to get to go places that only Peter Levshin get to go, because now I'm going to have these goggles.
That's right. That's right. Are you though? Are you gonna have those goggles? They're not on the cheap side, so that's gonna take a chunk. That's a chunk.
Yeah,
That's a
I
that's
might
a
have to trade
that's a
them.
fairly well built out Mac that you'd have to pay for those headsets. So,
I know it's going to be rough. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what strings we can pull to make that happen. But back to this photo. Very nice, Raphael. Very nice. This has got to be one of my favorites. So well done, sir. Very well done. But consider symmetry, especially with even images. Like the breaking up the symmetry, I think it's automatically broken up if you frame it with symmetrically, and the symmetry is automatically broken and adding the interest that I think you're looking for with the bite out of the sun or the shadow on the sun or the obscuring of the sun by the moon and the plane in there. So it automatically takes it off balance without, if it was just a photo of the sun, then, you might want to do a different composition or something. Very
Right,
nice.
right.
Very nice.
Bravo, bravo.
Yep. All right. Up next is Karen Sweeney. Hey, Karen Sweeney, who I believe is watching the live stream. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Hey,
he's in the chat.
hey, Karen Sweeney. And Phil's in there too. Hey, Phil. Let's see. Let me go back. What did you call this one, Karen? Circle within a circle, extending via circles to a big circle with yet more circles. But where are the circles? No, I'm kidding.
And the half circle. Don't forget there's a half circle.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, yeah, there it is. Very cool. Nice. What do you think of this one, Troy Miller?
I dig it. I think that the layers of complexity in this image are really wonderful, and not only just in the shapes, right, in the circles, but in the color harmony that we have. So we have the warm lights, and then you have the cool light coming in from the outside, like shade light. So you have those two color tones. I really love that a lot. I would probably lean more into saturating those colors, one or the other, maybe the warm tones to create a deeper layer. Right now, I feel like the warm tone and the cool tones are the same intensity. So I would like to see that a little bit different. But other than that, I mean, the composition, the way that it's cropped is really wonderful. I don't know if it's just me, Frederick, but it feels like it's tilted slightly
To the left.
counterclockwise.
Yeah.
But that could very well be an optical illusion, with all the angles and the lines and stuff going on
Hmm.
in there. So
Yeah, and but like you say, you're well known for saying even if it is an optical illusion or just because of the way the lines happen to lay out in the image, the photographer should cheat a little bit against reality to
right,
make, if it is off kilter a little bit, to make it less to draw less attention to that, right?
right. And I see in the chat that Ludinarina Karen said that one of the lamps was broken, so you had to fix it. So well done. It looks great.
Yeah, yeah, it looks fantastic. I love this. Like, Karen, what are you going in here fixing? Wait, Karen, did you have to go in and fix the light bulb before you took the photo, or did you fix it using generative fill in Photoshop? So I love it. Yeah, yeah, I love it. Karen's work is awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, nicely done.
Another one of those people that
really
Karen, she has this this wealth of opportunity for photos around her, right? And much like who's it, Michael Rhino, living out there in Colorado, right? So it's like just aim your camera in a direction and get a great shot. I live in like agriculture, edge of civilization, California, so
yeah.
it's like nothing. I get blue skies every now and then, even those have no clouds in them. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this is nice. Anything other than the tilt of this? Anything you would change?
I would probably lean, like I said, a little bit more saturation, maybe in the warm tones, just to make the lamps pop out a little bit more. Which you might be able to do with a little bit more contrast. I just feel it's a little bit flat, but that's also hard for me to determine, looking at it here. But
Yeah.
the color
Yeah.
saturation, I think, on the warm tones.
I think if I was going to change anything, Karen Sweeney, the only thing that I would change, aside from that, sort of cocking it to the right a little bit, is removing these fixtures right here, like this one and this one back here, and maybe this one down here, just to simplify the image more and just clean that up a little bit so that I'm not looking at those. And those also give us kind of visual clues as to orientation, where you were standing and all that. I just knocked those out of there. That's like a 2-click thing to get rid of those. And I think not that it would be much stronger without it, but I don't think the image itself needs those in there at all.
No, good call, because those things are probably like smoke detectors or something like that. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yep, I'd get rid of those. But great shot, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. All right, here's another shot.
She said, but they were circles, so she left them in there.
Oh,
but they're distracting circles.
But they're distracting circles. Yeah, I think you're circle rich in this image, Karen Sweeney. So
Yeah.
knocking out 2 would not change the equation too much. All right. Paolo Pacetti's up next. He says, get yourself lost. No AI was involved. Let's see. Oh, he said, wait a minute. No, am I immediately disqualifying myself for no camera was involved in it either? This is a fractal. Let's take a look. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. You know what? You and I briefly talked about this before we started the stream. The whole idea of, like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I don't want to open this Pandora's box discussion right now. But just the idea of, like, should photography just start encompassing all creative stuff, regardless of how you captured it or made it? Unless it is a purist kind of photography type challenge or assignment, like photojournalism or something, where it's got to be a representation of reality. But for these kinds of photo critiques, unless we're trying to stretch a particular muscle in your photography sort of skill set, is it all about creativity? And as such, does it matter if you just generate a fractal, or if you do a composite using content aware generative fill, or if you create something in 360 or whatever? I don't know. So we'll have to talk about that. But as for this shot, it is full of stars, right? This is a fractal, and it is it reminds me a lot of what do you call it? A sunflower, I see a sunflower when
Right.
I look at this. Yeah. What do you think?
I love it. I think that it's beautiful, and I think that being generative, being generated, but having a similar look to something that we're familiar with is really important because I love fractals, I love generated art, and that's really fun to look at. But we have to realize, like, our human brains, like, we're used to seeing certain things that we find pleasing, right? So it's patterns and tones and compositions, which this really leads to all of those things. Even though it's generated in this repetitive pattern, you got all the fractals going on, it feels like a sunflower or a flower of some kind. So it's very appealing. I love the tones in this. I like the way that we have the nice vignette and sort of the pseudo shallow depth of field. Really makes it feel immense and deep. And I could see us flying into this, and landing on a port somewhere deep in there, on the side of the planet or something like that. So
Yeah, for sure.
there's a lot of really wonderful things going on in this image. So I really enjoy it. I will say, to your point, I think that it's a conversation that, as a creative community, that we need to have about what is a photograph. I mean, to change the definition of photography, to communicate with one another in terms of how an image is created, whether it's generated or photographed or hand drawn or whatever. I think the authenticity of how it's created is what's important.
Yeah.
But we as the community have to set those standards. So I love art of all levels, and I like to see this appear um, in the scroll of everything else. Like, I love that. So
Yeah. No, no, I agree. Yeah, this is nice. I remember, geez, I think I was a kid when I first, well, in school, of course, we dive into fractals. But I remember as a kid, I think this was this app or something on the Commodore 64 back in the day. That was a fractal generation app that you just keep zooming in and the fractals just keep going, and it was just like infinite. I remember getting lost in there. It was almost claustrophobic. You're
yeah,
like, how deep am I? Can I get out of here? Yeah, nerd,
Inception.
nerd. Yeah, nerd
What do I
for
do?
sure. Yeah. All right, cool. Paolo, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, well done, Paolo. I love that.
Well done. All right, let's move on to the next shot here. Mr. Craig Stampley. No caption. Let's take a look. Not that you need a caption. I don't say no caption, as a dig. You don't need a caption, but I prefer captions so that we can get some context. But it is not a requirement. This one is similar to Paolo's in a way that kind of just pulls you into it. It's repeating patterns, and this one pulls you in. It has a little bit of a Don Komarechka type feel to it because he's known for taking photos of reflective liquid surfaces that reflect the surroundings of them. Looks like Mr. Stampley did the same thing here. I like this one. This is really interesting. It pulls you in. What do you think?
Yeah, this is really interesting. It reminds me of a shot that I did where the LED lights, you could see the bulbs reflected in a surface, and that's what made the dots. And so immediately I thought, oh, that's what that is. But I can't figure out what's actually going on in here, whether it's a reflection of things that have balls in them or bubbles, or if it's the light source, or if it's water or ice. And I bring that up because I'm glad that it's not super obvious to me what it is. Very much like Paolo's image, it seems alien but similar. This feels familiar, but I don't know what it is. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and he didn't
I
caption this at all, so we have no idea, right?
Yeah, and I love that we have, like, the foreground, middle ground, background in our depth of field, in sort of that focus that's going through there. The shapes and the tones. So we have this nice highlight in the foreground of the bubbles. We'll call them bubbles. They're crisper and they're sharper and they have more contrast, so they stand off of the subject matter in the background, which I think is really important, that we have depth,
Hmm.
in our images whenever possible. So this is so cool. And Craig, if you ever enter this an image competition, just be aware you're going to confuse everybody. The judges are not going to know how to judge this. They'll probably just give it a 95, like, yes, that's amazing. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, yeah, it looks good. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, would you enter like putting on your judge hat? Could and this comes across your screen. Like how would you judge it? Like you know you're more I would argue not knowing any of the other judges, but I would argue you're probably more savvy than the other judges. What would you like? How would you interpret this?
Well, first of all, the category that this would probably go in would be illustrative, which is sort of an open category. So immediately, I would just look at it as in like, does it have composition depth? Does it have a subject matter? Does it draw me in and make me look around? Does it, are there good leading lines, and are all those elements there? And then on top of that, is it appealing? Is it appetizing to look at? And so, with an image like this, I would score this roughly fairly high. I mean, I would be 85 ish or higher, depending on the resolution and things like that, because I think it's so cool that it's abstract. I don't know what it is, and yet I
Mm-hmm.
like it, right? Like
Yeah.
that's art, right? Isn't that like the essence of art? Like you don't have to know what it is or how it was created, but you look at it and you're like, I like that. That's just
Yeah.
something I like.
Yeah, yeah. That's the whole point, right? Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been to a MoMA, somewhere, you know that for those who don't know, the acronym MoMA is Museum of Modern Art, right? So if you go in there and you see like something on the wall, it's like, is that art or is that just a mistake where they're gonna hang a photo and they haven't painted yet or something? You know, Like, and then the next person looks at that and they're gonna pay $50,000 for that thing, right? It's in the eye of the beholder, and it's
Oh,
interesting. I had a similar conversation back. Remember the whole NFT wave and all that? I
right.
was interviewing this guy, and I was talking about, well, it was the whole idea of, why do you want to pay this much money for a piece when I could just screenshot it and now I have it, right? I can open that file up and enjoy it anytime I want. I can print it and put it on the wall if I want. Why does the ownership? Why is that important to you? And his response was um, supporting the artist that created it. So you can't discount the supporting the artist bit of it. But it was also, he just wanted to feel that intrinsic ownership of something, even if somebody else had the exact same thing, or the exact same set of pixels. His was the real one. I still don't know if that holds water. I don't I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I still need to unpack that more. But interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
And yes, I used unpack. So tell Kira I use unpack.
Could we double click on that?
Yeah, can we double click on that so we can unpack it later? It's Silicon Valley nonsense for those who are wondering what we're talking about. Silicon Valley meeting after meeting nonsense. Okay, and next up is Phil Lewinthal. He says, "Around and around we go." Nice, look at
Nice.
that. What
Wow,
you
it's like a
don't
little
want to see if you
whirlpool.
look out of your window on a cruise ship.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Um, so nice. Phil, we love your work, right? We've seen so much of it, and every now and then, you come up with another image that is just really impressive and surprising. I mean, all of your images are impressive and beautiful, but there's always the ones that stand out, right? So this to me is definitely a favorite of mine. I love the mystery and the twisting and the twirling of the water. It feels like water, and then you've got this anchor with this rock over here on the left, and I just love the minimalism of what's going on in here and those flowing lines. It keeps us in the frame. Um, I might suggest that the top right corner, that you would bring that highlight down a little bit, and then towards the center, bring those highlights up so that it keeps us in the center more. But
Hmm.
that's a subtle tweak,
They create kind of a subtle vignette kind of
right?
thing to push the
It's
eyeball into the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah.
like that upper right hand corner could lead you out of the frame a little bit, and it's better. It would be better if we could stay in the frame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then maybe down here in the middle in Photoshop, draw a little selection and have generative fill put a ship in there or something. Oh, no, pixels are safe. Pixels were born to be punished, I always say.
They
No,
were.
I
They
like
were.
this. My only comments on this are I sort of struggled back and forth with the rock being in there because I'm like, it kind of breaks it up. Would it be great without the rock in there? But I think we need this structure in here
Yeah.
to kind of contain it, like you were saying. And if burned in this top right corner, it would balance with the bottom left corner a little more. I would also like to see more of what's going on. I feel like we're cut off at the top a little bit here, Phil. So I would like, obviously, if it was possible. I know these are completely random, unrepeatable photographs, but in an ideal world, I'd like to see a little bit more of what this wave action is happening at the top area here, and maybe a little less at the bottom, or maybe more at the top to balance out the space that we have at the bottom there. Other than that,
Right.
no, fantastic. I love it. It reminds me
Yeah.
a lot of the whole parting of the Red Sea thing. Like you'd see like Moses standing down here with his holding a stick up or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
nice.
Wonderful.
Good work. Good work, Mr. Phil. Yeah, as
Yeah.
Eric
Way to
Pronsky
lean
says,
into the
nailed
topic
it.
too.
What's
Nailed
that?
it. Yeah. So way to lean into the topic.
Yeah, yeah, right. All right. Next up is Rick Killboy. He says, circles on a farm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
That's a
triptych. We don't get many triptychs. Look at this. Nice.
no, no. And I was gonna say triptych should be our next topic, but now I can't. No.
Because we'll see this one again. Yeah.
This is a really interesting study in the shapes because it's always fun to go out into the world and try to find shapes and to photograph a series of shapes. So I find it really wonderful the way that it's all put together, and that it's telling a story deeper and deeper into what that subject matter is. So
Hmm.
good use of that for sure. um,
Is that
and
you over
nice.
there playing music?
No, is there music? I can't
What
hear
is that
music.
sound?
Birds.
Wait, am I streaming that sound? Do you hear that?
I don't hear
Wait, hang on. I don't know what's happening right now. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. I was in another window in an That's so funny. In another window, Apple's keynote started playing again for some reason. I have no idea why.
Oh,
It was
wow.
playing through my ear, but I had it muted. It wasn't coming into the stream, so no copyright infringements.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
so this is Rick's, right? I think this is Rick's.
Yeah, Rick
Uh,
Killboy.
I love what you've done here. I think this is super super cool. I don't really have any comments on the images themselves, but the presentation, I love the presentation. I would just bump the images up inside the background frame and give it a bit of a chin.
Mm,
That way, it feels like it has a stronger base. So I feel this would be better if you move those three images up like half the distance that you have at the top. I think that would make a stronger presentation. Um, I guess I do have a suggestion for the three images. You've got a different tone variation happening in some of these. So, like the right one seems to be a bit cooler than the middle one. The left one is less cool than the far right one. So, I would try to make like the highlights and the shadows the same tone in all three, so they really fit. But other than that, I mean, compositionally and subject matter, they're really great.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, really nice. My let's see. My only comments. I agree with everything you said. The chin thing. I realize that's a competition thing. I was actually reading a fine art photography book the other day. It was going in depth about the idea of having a chin and non-symmetrical borders around an image. So I get it. I understand.
Right.
On this shot, the a couple of things that I noticed, and I haven't done any measurement, but I feel like these images aren't the same size, Rick. That's the first thing. Like this one, I feel like is a little fatter than this one. I'm pointing in the right place. This one feels
Oh
like it's a little
yeah.
fatter than this one. For the first thing, the border on this side is thinner than the border on this side, even if ever so slightly. And so, which means all three of these are not centered in the middle. And then the last thing, I think the background is I'm not sure what you do, Troy. Maybe you know. It feels like it's a little bit too obvious. I'd want to push it back a little bit, or darken it, or blur it, or something to make it less part of the overall image. I know. I just want to. I know this probably was another texture that you found when you're out shooting these, and it made an ideal background. But I think it needs to be kind of pushed back a little bit to let the photos come forward. And I think overall the scale of the photos probably could go down just maybe 1% or so, just to give them a little bit more space in the frame for the viewer to enjoy them. They feel a little bit crowded in there. And part of that crowded, to me, I think, is the drop shadows. So I wanted to get Troy, I wanted you to comment on the drop shadows he's got behind the photos. And he's got them coming down and to the left. Whereas in my head, I don't know, it's probably just my own demons, but drop shadows feel like they should be down and to the right normally. I don't know. And then, so if you could comment on the drop shadows, the placement of the images in here, and then just overall, any tips you have for photographers that want to create triptychs like this, centering the images in the frame. Like the way that I do it is select all X, Command V, and it drops it right in the middle, and you know, shift drag it in a direction. And Photoshop will generally, I think Photoshop will give you guides and tell you how much space between the images, you know, that you have, or if you're off or not. But how would you do that? And how would you handle the drop shadow and background?
So how I would put them in there would be tough. I use a lot of the guides in Photoshop, so I would probably bring in the ruler and do it all manually. I would probably, add the ruler, drop some guides in there, and just move things around until it felt really good. I wouldn't do a lot of auto aligning or anything like that, because manually for me feels better. I loved all your suggestions. I do agree with the background. I think that it should be just softened and maybe darkened slightly. So that would really, really, really help a lot. What was your other question?
The drop shadows. Yeah, the drop shadows.
Oh, the drop shadows. Okay. Drop shadows are a bit of a struggle for me, because part of me feels that they don't really work well in digital composites because they look fake, because I know they're fake.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that what you've done here works really well. I think the shadows need to follow, the drop shadows should follow the light in the image. So the far left image, you can see where the light is coming from behind the headlights. So the drop shadows should be going the same direction, which I think they are.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
to me, that feels better. I always do drop shadows if I choose to be super subtle, kind of like a vignette. If you see it, it's too much, but it should be just enough to make you think that it might be there. So that's my suggestion on drop shadows.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with that, with the whole idea of drop shadows. If you notice them, then you've gone too far. They should be right on the edge, just to, because the whole idea is to lift the image off the page, right?
Right.
And you don't really need a lot to lift it off the page. So that said, though, on this image with this background, if he made the drop shadow less obvious, he might lose it against the background, because the background is relatively busy. So like if he wanted to tone back the background, especially if he made it darker, right? And then the drop shadow is really going to get lost on that. Like, should this background have been more of a washed out white, or a washed out kind of feel, or darker? I don't know. Does it matter?
No, I mean, no, it doesn't matter. No, I think that you go with the tone you want. I like the tone of the background in this. I think everything about this is wonderful for the background. I think it's a little too sharp, right? It's just a little too much detail. It's going to draw your eye there, and you want the background to be more subtle. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And a little bit more space around the images. I feel like we're crowded. We're crowded in there a little bit. I like it. And what about the not to pick this image apart, but this is all constructive. I feel like the border, having the border and the key line on these three images with a high frequency background or a busy background like this with the drop shadow, I think that's too much. I think for me personally, this is completely subjective, so grain of salt, Rick. So on these, I think I probably would have gone with like a simple white or simple black border, maybe a little bit thicker on these to focus us, because we've got a lot going on in here. We've got this background happening, and then 3 images to consume, and then on those images we have a border and a key line and a drop shadow on there. I think lightening the load a little bit visually would draw us into the photo and do more justice to the photos themselves versus the presentation of the photos. I don't know. Do you agree with that, or am I off base?
Yeah, so I think simple is always best. Build it the way you want to build it, but less is more. Always, I think it's always better to have less is more. So only add the key lines around the images after you've placed them, and then look at them and go, does it need more separation? Does it need those key lines? And if not, then maybe you don't need to add them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like it though. Really cool. Really cool. Yeah, more people should do triptychs like this. Yeah. Triptychs. What's it called if you do a photo with 4 images in it?
A quad tick? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm asking genuine. This is not a test. This is a genuine question.
I don't know.
Just don't know. Like, does it have to have tick at the end of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What does the chat say?
Yeah. I don't know, chat. What do you say? Let us know what you think. Should it be is it a quad tick, quad trick, quad something? I don't know.
Or is it a double duo?
Oh God. Oh, here we go. No. Back to our regularly scheduled stream. Okay. All right. Coming up next is Mr. Eric Bronsky. He says, wine bottles in the fridge. The content in these circles tastes really good. A stab at product photography. By the way, this is a terrific winery for those of you near the Anderson Valley. Phil Lewinthal. Okay, Lewinthal. Okay, here we go.
Nice.
All right, look at that. That's nice product photography. Good work.
It is. It's really nice. I love the fact that the label is super easy to read, right? Like if we talk about product photography, I love the warm tones in the background. The one thing that I will say is that when you do product photography, well, any kind of image, right? You've got this reflection in the bottom of the bottles and it's blue. Not only do you have a highlight there that's distracting, but it's a blue light. So what I would do is if you want to leave the highlights there, which I think are nice because it highlights the glass and the edges, is I would fix the tones in those to be a more warm or less blue light because it's competing with everything else. You don't really need that. So color harmony.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, Eric, that you intentionally left in the 2 bottles on the right, but I kind of feel that if you were to crop those 2 bottles out and just have the tops of the 2 and then the main one in the center, I think you might have a stronger image. I mean, I really like it without the bottles on the right. I don't know what do you think, Frederick?
I agree. Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, losing the bottles on the right and the left, and or the 2 flanking bottles, losing those, and then maybe this board down here distracts me too because it's almost like a false border for the image at the bottom. So, I mean, we know now that there are ways to easily get rid of that. So I would extend the bottom part and remove this board and these sides. So if these bottles are gone on the left and the right, I'd still like the inverted bottles here. I like those. But if we could lose more of these and draw our focus to the handling in the middle, and then generative fill this out of there, or maybe just crop this out somehow, whatever, but make this bottom, sort of false border less obvious. I don't think it's doing the shot itself any justice. I think it'd be much stronger and be more focused on this guy. The other crop might be just a vertical shot, right? So if you've got a vertical shot, showing the entire bottle and less of the flanking bottles, it would make more sense that, of course, this is vertical, so we don't need to see the left and the right, and then maybe pan up a little bit so that, given if you had enough space down below here to get more space from the bottom of the bottle to the bottom of the frame. Otherwise, shoot it like this and then generative fill that board out of there or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's always going to be the big challenge going forward, right? Is like what do I leave in frame, or what is natural that I'm going to leave, and how much effort do I want to put into either cloning it, removing it, or using AI to remove it later? You know,
Yeah.
um, I'm okay with it the way that it is. I might take it down a little bit,
Hmm.
but you're absolutely right. I mean, if, in an ideal situation, if you were actually shooting this for the client, I would lean into, you know, perfecting it as much as possible. But
Yeah. Yeah.
wonderful image the way it is, though. I mean, really cool perspective. I like that.
No, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. These are just, again, constructive criticism. When you say knock it down a little bit, this board down here, are you saying reduce the exposure on it, darken it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Knock
Okay.
down the, yeah, just knock it down, make it darker. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. I got to bring you back to non-photography talk every now and then, Troy. You gotta.
Hey,
Uh,
I've been living in the woods for almost a week, man. I'm like, I haven't even touched my well, I took the camera out once and went around and photographed a bunch of infrared stuff. There's an abandoned building and things I found over here, so that was pretty cool. But the rest of the time, it's like campfires and mountain biking. That's all I've been
oh,
doing.
that sounds so good. That sounds so good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Camping Troy Miller style, though. Electric mountain bikes and a high-tech electric car at the campsite, right? And
yeah.
full-on high-speed internet access and live streaming. Right?
Well, there's only internet access here. If this is up at the clubhouse, like this is the little clubhouse. This is the only place. Oh, that's a noisy woodpecker over there. This is the only place we have internet. There's like no internet anywhere else, so we have to come here.
Nice. Well,
So
good.
yeah,
Well, I mean, that's
yeah,
a feature, right? So,
yeah. It's a feature. Yeah, I love it.
love it. All right. Well, cool. Let's move right along so we can get you back to your nature. All right. Let's show more comments, see what else is in here. And it looks like we have two more. Okay. So the next one is from Nora Zanotness. She's titled this one Sunrise. Simply.
Yeah,
Yeah, look at that. That's cool. Abstract. It's full of stars.
it's full of stars. No, this is, yeah. You know what, Nora? I always love to see. Well, I love everybody's stuff. I don't want to single anybody out, but Nora really leans into the abstract, and I love that. And I would love one day to just be walking on her shoulder, watching what she's photographing. Right? Like,
Hmm.
why are you doing that? Like, what do you see? So this is super cool.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really know where it's at. Like, my mind says, oh, maybe that's through an airplane window or something like that. But again, it doesn't matter. I love the composition. The highlight draws me in there. We've got these leading lines across the bottom. Our secondary hook is the water droplets everywhere. I really enjoy all of that. So as an abstract, we've got the circle element in there, and it's just fun to look at. I want to know more about it.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it instantly brings me into the mindset of, um, astrophysics again. It looks like a sun with stars or moons or planets or something, right? It looks very otherworldly to me. Only thing that takes, I mean, the streaks on the glass here, of course, take you out of it, and this metal object right here. I'm not sure what that is. That kind of takes you out of it a little bit. I'm on the fence on if this metal object right here, if I want it in there or if I want it gone. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like having it in there brings me into reality. We want to be in, you don't want too much of the surreality there. But taking it out, then I can focus on this black abyss down here and all the water droplets and the gradation from dark to light. And then whatever this light source is, probably the sun right there. This metal thing right here, or whatever this is, maybe it's not metal, takes me out of the shot a little bit. I don't know. You think I'm off base there? What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely right. This is one of those images that's really hard to critique because being an abstract, everybody is really going to see this different, right? I mean, if this was just a horse standing in a field, we would agree more, right, on what it is because it'd be simpler. But when you start to get into things that are abstract and nuanced, it's harder. Um, I like the fact that we have that little metal, call it a metal rib across the lower left on the bottom because it adds to a layer. So we have this dark, light, and then the sky at the top, which is kind of dark. So without that at the bottom, I lose all the layers. So I like the layers a lot. So it's one of those challenging images that you just, you either like it or you don't. It's like olives, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Here's a quick uh, pause. This is what's happening in the Johnson. I have no idea. She just like randomly went in there and started chewing on my toes. I have no idea. All right, cool. So let's move on to the next one. Thank you, Nora. This is Zambia, by the way. And I'm looking at Nora. I'm peeping your file naming here, so I know this was in Zambia. I'm guessing, is this a date? Yeah, 23. Yeah. So this year, what is that? May 04. And then we've got this was shot you processed this using DxO and exported it as a JPEG. Very nice. Very nice.
Well done.
All right. Well done, Nora. Yeah, she says it's through a glass darkly. Very nice. All right. And speaking of planets and that kind of thing, Jim Peters brings us home with Orange Planet.
Wow.
Look at that. That is this is brown dwarf.
It's another one of those images that, I want to try to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like soap bubbles or something. I can see the bubbles in there, but it could very easily be, like a star or a sun or a planet somewhere. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love the balance, the harmony, like the way that it's centered in the square frame. I think that's awesome. The vignette that leads us to a slightly brighter spot in the middle, incredibly well done. And that's like circles within circles too, right? Because you have almost like that fractal sense deeper into the image, which this needs to be big. I want to see this on my Apple VR goggles so I can fly through it. That's what I want to do.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I like this. This is a good closure, right? Because it brings us our first image in this critique was the solar eclipse shot, right? So we're back to kind of a celestial looking shot. Only this one, part of our critique on the first one was it should have been, maybe one of the ideas is that it was cropped. It should have been cropped symmetrically or square, and this one is. So this is an example of how that works, right? So you got a circle inside of a square, which our brain instantly recognizes and feels beauty in. And then, like you were saying, as you dive deeper into this, whatever this thing is, we see the fractals and the circles and the repeating patterns in there. So yeah, the nerd in me looks at this and I think, like old original Star Trek, where they pull up, they drop out of warp and they pull into orbit around a planet. This is exactly what it would look like on their view screen, like, Captain, we have established orbit around, Corona 11. There's no intelligent life on the surface. So,
right.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was trying to look it up because actually this reminds me of Stargate Universe when I think the name of the ship was Serenity. When they had to refuel, they had to fly through like the outer surface of the sun to refuel. So I look at that and I'm like, that looks just like one of those.
That's it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep.
All right, I'm reloading the page real quick to make sure we got no stragglers in there. All right, it's time for you to pick the favorite.
I have to go with...
Let me re-scroll back through. So here we go. So we had Raphael with the Ritz cracker being bitten, and then we have Karen Sweeney with the chandelier, and we have Paolo with the fractal. We've got Craig Stampley with we have no idea what it is, but we like it. We have Phil with the parting of the California Sea. Rick with the rusted stuff on the farm and the triptych. Eric Bronsky with the wine. And Nora Zanotness with sunrise. And lastly, Jim Peters with Orange Planet. What do you think, Troy?
I think I've got to go with Raphael Swift's Lunar Eclipse
Yeah.
with the plane in it. That's epic, right? Like all the images are amazing, but that's our sun and the moon and an airplane full of 250 people. I just think it's great.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, this is I would have picked this one too. There are a lot of good ones in here that could have been picked, but this one was really really nice. I love it. It's just yeah, it's at the scale it is just gigantic. I love it. So what's going to be
Right,
our
and
what's
this
going to be sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that the scale of difficulty to get this is also really high. I mean, this is not an easy shot to get, right? Like you've got to have the lens, it's got to be focused, you got to have the filter, you got to be in position, you got to be waiting, and whether you predicted a plane to fly through there or it just happened to fly through there and you got it, like kudos. That's really good. That's really good. So
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it? Last night? Was it last night we had the blood moon again? And you're out camping. Tell me you got shots of the moon.
I'm socked in. I got clouds everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
What would you have
So
shot it with? Like, what do you shoot this shot that Raphael submitted, or if you want to get just a shot of the moon, what focal length do you tend to gravitate towards?
um, I like the longest lens possible for shooting the moon because you get compression. So it makes the moon bigger. So it's always about finding a foreground subject and then getting the moon somewhere in the frame behind it and then shooting it with as long of lens as possible because you get the most compression. That's why I want the Nikon Z100 to 400 with the teleconverter. So I get essentially an 800 millimeter lens that I can point at the moon and make it gigantic. So
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be ideal for me. Yeah. Yeah. Long lens. Yeah. Long lens.
Got it. Got it. All right, let's wrap up with your pick for the next critique, which, by the way, will be happening on the 19th of June. 19th of
Yeah.
June,
So
also
as you
known
can
as
hear,
Juneteenth, by the way. That will be Juneteenth. We'll be doing this one. What's that one
yeah.
going to
So
be?
as you can hear and see, is I'm outside in the wilderness, right? So I think that the next subject should be nature. See, I got nature all around me. So
Yes. All right.
I
That's an
think it
easy
I
one.
think it should be nature. Yeah. So birds, trees, things of nature, right? Like just kind of embrace all of those things.
Very good. All right. So nature is the next one,
Nature.
which, I mean, if you want to split hairs, everything's nature, right? So, and anything we make is nature, right? Because we are nature. It's
That's man
just
made. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. But that'd be like saying oxygen isn't real because plants made it. It's plant made, right?
well, I don't want to.
Or
I don't want to
CO2, that is.
overregulate.
Yeah.
I
Or,
don't want to overregulate the topic, but let's just say no man-made objects.
okay.
It's nature.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Of
nature.
course. Yeah. No splitting hairs. Points will be deducted for hair splitting. So I want to go back
Right.
to, before we hang up here, I want to go back to Jim Peters' shot real quick. Where is it? There it is. So Jim Peters in the chat, he says, there we go. Hey, the set, and so it was a loom cube under a vase filled with
Oh,
water and soap bubbles.
yes, I
Very
got the
nice.
bubbles. I got the bubbles part. Nice. Nicely done. Gotta love those loom cubes.
Yep, yeah, very cool. We would never known. I would have never known for sure. Really good.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, let's leave it right there. Let you get back to rubbing sticks together to create your fire and all that. So, any final thoughts before we end this critique?
Go outside and enjoy nature as per our topic for next week or next critique.
Yeah, yeah. 2 weeks from tonight or from today.
Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
get
All right.
outside. Yeah, get off the computer.
Get off the computer. Get outside. Enjoy your world. All right, cool, man. All right, happy Monday. Thanks for doing this. Above and beyond, of course, coming in hot from the middle of nowhere like that and doing this. Thank you, technology, for having the infrastructure available to us to
Yeah,
allow Troy Miller
yeah,
to do a live stream across the world from the middle of nowhere. Like,
yeah, it's
who
fun.
knew? Who knew we'd be able to do this, say, 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago?
10 years
No
ago.
one. 10 years ago, yeah. Yeah, your bandwidth would not have supported this 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it would have been, you might have been able to pull down an email, let alone up and down fast enough bandwidth to send out a HD stream.
I know. So.
Yeah. So here we are. All right, Troy Miller, we'll leave it right there. Thank you, everyone who participated in the chat. And if you haven't done so already, please remember to like and subscribe to the TWiP YouTube channel so we can get more traction here. I'm trying to put an emphasis on growing the YouTube channel over the next quarter or so, with a bunch of other things that will start happening there as well. So thank you. Thank you, everybody who submitted images. The replay is now available. As soon as I click in broadcast, the replay will be available inside the community and on YouTube. And I will post the event for the nature critique probably later today. So let's see if we can't beat the Circle's critique. So let's see if we can help Troy Miller beat Jeff Greenberg in terms of submission numbers in the next critique. Nature should be something that everyone can bite into. So, all right, we'll leave it right there. Thank you, Troy. Appreciate you.
All right.
And
thanks, everyone.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll see you next time. Okay, ending the broadcast.